It's time for Uncancelled, in which Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of cancel culture that is sweeping the rest of the media. Now, notwithstanding a few bumps in the road, it's been a strong Labour Party conference for Sir Keir Starmer. And what was particularly notable in his keynote speech yesterday was what sounded quite a lot like Tony Blair 2.0. Take a listen.
My message is this. If you're grafting every hour to buy your own home, Labour is on your side. Labour is the party of home ownership in Britain today. I want to be crystal clear about this. I'm not just pro-business. I want to partner with business. That's why we had to show our support for NATO is non-negotiable. Show we want business to prosper. Shared unworkable policy. Country first, party second.
There you go. So is Starmer the new Tony Blair, or should he enjoy his moment in the sun before Liz Truss bounces back? Delighted to welcome Rod Liddle to the show. Rod, is this Tony Blair 2.0?
I sincerely hope not. I must admit, I find myself being pulled by a kind of magical force towards Keir Starmer. I think his conference speech was excellent. I think he's done an extraordinarily good job with the Labour Party in the last couple of years. He's expunged from Labour almost all of its idiocies. There's still the residue on the culture war stuff. He still would go along with Ashley on a few things, which makes him, for me, almost unelectable, but not quite. I mean, I think given the way he's performed, I find it hard to see the Conservative Party winning the next election. I think he's been an admirable leader of the Labour Party. Where I think he's different from Tony Blair is that, do you know, I've got a tendency to believe him. And that never happened with Tony. It didn't even happen in 1997. I never actually had the feeling that this was a man suffused with honesty, decency, and probity. Whereas I think what Tony Blair has and which Keir Starmer doesn't have is a great degree of charisma, youthful charisma, and that rather slick and wonderful prolix means of speaking. But then again, when you look at Keir Starmer, he is up against Liz Truss, who is possibly the worst public speaker that we've ever had as a Prime Minister in the history of this country, although I can't remember how well Robert Walpole spoke because we don't have any tape recordings of him. Yeah. But I would guess it was slightly better than Liz. So I think that Keir Starmer, and it's it's a frightening thing to say, but I think Keir Starmer is a very, very able politician who delivered a superb speech, whose speech upon the death of our Queen was dignified and beautifully expressed, and expressed with emotion. And he's managed to expunge pretty much everything that Corbyn wrecked the party with, and is doing a better job, a much better job, than the previous leaders as well, Ed Miliband particularly. However, Rod, you touched on it, Keir Starmer is irredeemably woke. He's also... I don't know that he is. I don't know that he is. I don't know that he is irredeemably woke, because to be woke, to believe in some of these things, is to be delusional. And I don't think he is delusional. I think he knows full well that there are too many people within his party who would carp and cavil if he didn't, drop to one knee or fail to describe what a woman is exactly. I think probably if you got Sir Keir Starmer alone and said, come on, Keir, you know what a woman is really, don't you? It's an adult female, isn't it? I think he'd probably agree with that. Perhaps I'm just projecting, but I don't think so. I mean, the wokery is the last thing which the Conservative Party have over Labour. We know all the opinion polls. It's, somewhere in the region of 90-odd% on transgender issues. It's not terribly far short of that on some of the wilder claims of Black Lives Matter and so on, and all this decolonising stuff. deeply, deeply unpopular with the electorate, and especially with the electorate in those red wall seats where I'm sitting at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the last thing which is standing between Keir Starmer and a very, very healthy majority indeed, I think.
Okay.
That and Scotland a little bit.
OK, well, a vote of confidence in Keir Starmer from Rod Little. Rod, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in a week's time. The associate editor of The Spectator. Rod, of course, writes for The Sun, Sunday Times, brilliant, brilliant journalist. Always great to hear his thoughts. It's